Hi. So I hope that some of you can join me for a few minutes. I wanted to talk about a topic that's been all over the news, and also one that I've been talking with clients about as they struggle with COVID. So the topic on the news is the guy who got caught masturbating on a Zoom call. Now, I think that that's it probably happens more frequently than we would like to admit, but I do think that we have to recognize that in the time of COVID, it becomes more of a possibility we will be exposed to such things. So, just wanted to talk about how that link works for me in my thinking and formulating as I work with clients. So, COVID 19 has created, wisely so, isolation. And the isolation creates a lack of stimulation. And that lack of stimulation creates in us a sense of feeling like we can't get what we need. And that then is what leads to us trying things that make us feel better. And that could be food, or it could be activities, the excessive activity, it could be drugs, or it could be pornography. In the end, we have to acknowledge that all behavior is purposeful. And so what's going on here is people are trying to find a way to feel good in a time that it's difficult to do that because we have to do things so differently. So I have what I'm just want to point out to people is that we have to deal with this directly and realize that we have to acknowledge that this isolation causes us to have less positive stimulation in our life. And so we have to make choices about how we're going to get ourselves activated, how we're going to get our brain reward centers operating in a positive way during this time. And, there's lots of ways to do it. Some are very healthy, and some are not so healthy for us. One of those ways that we need to understand that happens in the brain circuitry, and the circuitry that drives porn addiction is the same circuitry that drives drug addiction. And we have to acknowledge that, because if people don't listen, if they don't pay attention to what's going on inside of their brain chemistry, it's going on inside of their body, they're going to find themselves going back to patterns that are not healthy for them and just create more and more of a cycle of addiction. So you need to have reward. The dopamine systems have to be activated. All the serotonin systems, all the systems in the brain, we don't need to get into all of that, but we do know that we need to feel good. And that's what comes with that reward circuitry. And if we're not getting enough stimulation that we feel good, we start to look around for things that will help. Now, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's something that's novel or different, something that creates a little bit of a hit in our system, whether that's drugs or exercising excessively or watching porn, masturbating, all of that comes down to trying to activate those systems. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of these behaviors that I'm talking about, and I just want you to know that I think that porn addiction is real. But I also think that in the same way that we can have appropriate drug use, we can have appropriate porn use. Now, that's going to be pretty controversial, but when working with clients, I find it better to accept that this is a reality, that some people use porn in a way that's positive in their life and is not creating this cycle of overuse, which drives you more and more and creates health problems everywhere from erectile dysfunction to all kinds of things that happen when it becomes excessive. So I just want to help people be able to begin a conversation about this. And I think it's important that we do recognize that people are going to be dealing and struggling with these things. So anyway, I'm going to just suggest to you that there's a couple of resources that might be useful. If you find you or your clients or your family or you're concerned about people about this question of when does porn use turn into porn addiction? When does porn addiction become a problem? And what solutions are there for it? There's some good resources out there and good research has been done. So I've attached in the comments a couple of resources I think might be useful and helpful if you're talking to people who are struggling with these kinds of things. I've also been working on helping people activate their own reward system in a very direct way using tapping. So I'm going to suggest that if you're feeling kind of numb, kind of dead, kind of not feeling the juice of your life because you're feeling less stimulation, because you're more isolated, that you might try some tapping. I'm going to go through a tapping pattern here in just a moment that I think might be useful to you. Again, though, I'm interested in what people think about this topic and how it's difficult for people to deal with it. I really would like some feedback from people on this. And do you think that porn is an addiction? Is it always an addiction? Do you have any ideas or thoughts about how it might be different than other addictions? And we need to have these ongoing conversations, because if we don't, then we find ourselves moving into cycles that are unhealthy. So I want to share with you some tapping that I've been doing around this idea of how to activate the reward systems in your own mind. And I'm just going to go through this really quick right now. So on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being just being numb and not feeling any stimulation at all, or connection to the joy in life, and 10 being that connection and feeling positive, just rate how you feel right now. Take a moment. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is just tap along with me. So I would ask you to start by tapping the side of your hand, under your nose, chin, and then we're going to do a point that we don't usually take, and that's called the liver point. So if you just go directly down to that bottom rib, come up between the bottom rib and the next one, and just tap right there. I hope you can see that. And then tap under the eye, outside of the eye, and then the gamut spot 30 times. And then we're going to go back to under the collarbone. Now we do the 9 gamut series. Close your eyes, open your eyes, look down left, down right, whirl your eyes around, back the other way, hum, count 1, 2, 3, 4, hum again, and then we go back and tap on the chin, rib, under the eye, outside of the eye, gamut 30. And then under collarbone. And just stop for a moment and think again how activated your reward system is. How good do you feel? 0 to 10. And if that was helpful to you, go ahead, do it again. If it didn't take you all the way you want to go, try it again. You can also try using collarbone breathing exercise and then repeat this pattern and see what happens. So I really hope that you give that a try and that you let me know what you think about this. Please feel to respond here or rlbray@rlbray.com. And I hope that you're all going to be able to feel good about the fact that you voted, because that always feels good to me. All right, I'll talk to you next week, and please vote. Bye-bye.